Start with a vow and four great vows. Vow. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome again to you all. It was interesting because I was trying to decide what I was going to lecture on. In any given moment, I may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kinds of lectures to present. And I decide to present the lecture depending on what I feel in my heart would be most beneficial at that time. I had a prepared lecture to give, but I'm going to switch it to talk about something that I talked about at the last retreat in New York, a line from Master Yongchia. And he was a disciple of the sixth patriarch Hui Ning. His writing here resonates very, very clearly in Sign Illumination, although it predates it. You could say it was proto Sign Illumination. I'm going to read it to you, and you listen to it and see if you can get it. This is from Chi Quan Song, the Song of Calming and Contemplation. It reads as follows, very short. Having forgotten all involvements, one is silent and still, and yet luminous wisdom by nature is incisively penetrating, dark and incognizant. It still shines and illumines while conforming to primal and true emptiness. One all the while perceives with precise exactness. This statement or verse is incredibly profound. And it is what I would say represents sometimes when we read the prose and are enamored with the prose, it sounds so beautiful, but we don't know what it means. Do you really know what this meant? Do you know how deep this is? I spent the time at the retreat to go over these lines to show how we don't really spend the time to penetrate the sutras or the treatises, the statements of the ancient masters, and we just let this deep wisdom go by. I was reading before we came together today on the 3 levels of training. And one of them is, again, the mundane understanding. And another one is the profoundness. And then the other level is a level of what I would call esoteric, which is actually goes to the heart. To get to that level, we have to slow down quite a bit. We can't just read it and then say, okay, well, that we understand it. No, we don't. But if you take the time to slow down, it will work for you very well. I have one of my friends, a dear colleague, that's going on a solitary retreat, and she's reciting the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra. And I told her, don't be in such a big hurry to finish it. Take your time to read it. There's no reason to go to the next line until you understand the line that you just read. This is patience. This is the true patience of the paramitas. This patience comes not from the bottom, but it comes from the top, a reflection of the proper practice of a bodhisattva. When we are patient in this way, we're patient with everything in the world. It's not always easy because, it's kind of like Shakespeare, we suffer the slings and arrows of all sorts of ways, but we have to be patient. We have to slow down to see the world. And the slowing down is very interesting because it's actually the opposite. When we manifest true wisdom, manifest the perception of the Buddha mind, the mind actually is functioning on its natural way of its speed, which is instantaneous. It doesn't have to think in a linear way. It just simply thinks in a way in which all the information that's necessary in that very, very moment appears. And the mind, by its natural interest in harmonizing with the environment, makes the right decisions. In order to do that, it must handle millions, we could say, you give any kind of number to it, of data in an instant, in a snap of the fingers. The mind is processing all this information, which we cannot do as sentient beings, and filtering everything through the consciousness. We can't do that. When we try to do that, our mind stops. We get confused. But it is the lack of confusion in the true nature that enables the mind to function at such a high capacity. That ability to function in that way enables us who possess the Buddha mind. And as I see it, I don't think there's anybody in the group that doesn't possess the Buddha mind. So you're all in from using it. What we do is moment to moment, we choose to fall asleep and fall into the idea of this false identity, this falseness of a person or an ego, a personality, life, or being. All of these things we believe is us, but it's not. It is not the right view. And so when we don't use this in the right view, the problem is that it doesn't work very well. Everything is slowed down because this mind, this illusory consciousness says, wait a minute, everything's happening too fast. I need to slow it down. I need to figure out what's going on. Mind, on the other hand, is several steps already down the line. And it's waiting for this apparent reality to catch up. Because it has used, let's say, if it was a computer and it lays out so many alternatives of variations of what will happen in the future if one does this, says this, thinks this. And when we work in this way, all of a sudden, instantaneously, the right one without consciousness appears, and that is function. And the mind naturally functions in that way. Doesn't make a mess of the situation, doesn't have to protect the ego or the self. And so as a result of that, it's liberated. The product of that liberation is even more important. That product of the liberation is, if this works this way, why not share it? Because there's no Gilbert to suffer. Now, last week I happened to have a big whiteboard fall on my toe. And so since that time, I've experienced pain. But if I don't let Gilbert in, I don't suffer from it. There's still pain. You're not immune from pain, but you don't have to suffer from it and go, oh, when is it going to stop? What's going to happen? Whatever, all of those things, you just attend to it, make sure that it doesn't get infected or whatever we need to do on it, get x-rays and whatever I'm doing now. And so, but you follow function, but you don't have to suffer. There's a liberation there, maybe just a little bit. Not bad though, but it is something worth sharing. If you can help people, especially in their dire times, alleviate even a little bit of suffering, even if it's still samsaric, that we're not even dealing with trying to say a transcendence, but simply helping a person navigate through some difficult times. The Bodhi heart is capable of that. It's capable of helping people when they're suffering from physical, emotional, mental pains, changes in their life or changes in the lives of those that they love. And it's also capable of providing this incredible compassion, like I was going to say a fountain, but I don't think a fountain is strong enough. Like this infinite light or this incredible spray of compassion that one begins to radiate without the idea that one is radiating anything. It is just a natural function of mind, and the mind simply radiates through. But people can actually feel that in their hearts. They know that this person is not wanting to waste their time, not wanting to talk about things egotistical or whatever. They care about me. They care about something. And so it's worth listening to in terms of that. And that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of presentations and listening. When we listen, we want to listen to something and say, there's something here. It's as if we're all trapped in a mine, and one of the miners sees a tiny, tiny speck of light, and it gives him faith to dig towards that light, but it also gives him faith to help the other ones to dig towards that as well. Releasing one releases all. If only one gets out, then so what? Wouldn't the mind still feel something's missing? Something could have, should have, would have done more with this lifetime. Go back around again and do it again, lifetime after lifetime, because we understand just in this moment, this very, very, very moment, there is nothing but the Buddha mind. Without saying Buddha mind, it's just this. I have my interpreters that are translators are trying to translate something, and they're having a difficult time with it, because I at one point was writing something saying, thus, this is the thusness of thus. And where do you go with that? And I feel sorry, but that's what came out of my mouth, is just, it's this way. It doesn't, it's not like a circle in that way. It's just pointing to that little light that's there. And then as you dig, it becomes this incredibly bright, infinite light. I know maybe I'm waxing poetic about it. And sometimes when you do that, that there's a danger people will say. And then I felt like this gigantic ray of light that shined on me, and I felt so good. And I have to inquire, are you sure it wasn't an alien encounter? Maybe not yet. So don't tell me something like that. Okay. But in any case, let me go back and let's read this and let's see where we go with this, because this is absolutely beautiful. Whatever is said there is just what I just told you right now. Not bad. 3 very short lines. Having forgotten all involvements. Having forgotten all involvements means that we are disentangled from the world. Now, a lot of people misunderstand that, and they disentangle themselves in a non-productive way. A very interesting observation in a retreat, a lot of times people, especially from other traditions, when they take a break, they don't want to see anybody. They're looking at the wall and drinking their drink and then going back to their cushion. Not bad. I mean, they're disciplined in that way. But forgetting all involvements is not hiding from the involvements. It's like, I don't want to see that. No, forgetting the involvements is being able to walk through the Chan Hall. Walk through seeing but not seeing. Seeing all these Buddhas that are there taking a break. But at that moment, my function is to take a rest. So they're all moving in their own accord. No reason to judge them, discriminate, say this one is doing this one's doing yoga, this one's doing whatever, that simply is absorbed. All of those observations are not hidden. They're completely absorbed, and the mind is capable of taking in all of that as one is walking. But we forget those involvements. We just understand that that's the environment. But when we forget that, what it means is that we forget Gilbert. Gilbert, who's walking there with the wrong attitude, judging the world. This one is doing something foolish. This one is afraid. This one's this way, this one. There's nothing like that that should be going on. But the mind is aware of what is happening. It is aware on an intimate level. It's different. So when we forget all involvements, doesn't mean that we close our senses. We shut off the senses to the consciousness that desires a continuation. When we shut off the senses to that idea of a life and being, then the mind is liberated. It's able to see all of the things around it. So its natural luminosity or wisdom is reflecting all that's happening around it, because all of that is happening in no other place but mind. No other place. So as you're walking, you're just walking in mind. Master Sheng said, you're swimming in it every day. You're just going like this, swimming in mind, swimming in mind. And he would be laughing to himself, and people go, he's acting so silly. Why is he acting that way? He was acting like a master. To him, he saw it that way. And if you looked at it and you accepted it, you were in awe that when somebody's doing that, rather than being confused, we should look into it. We should contemplate that. What is he saying? Is he really that silly? No, quite to the contrary. He was trying to express something that can be expressed in words. So we see from the very first few words how long it's taken us to get just to that part. Having forgotten all involvements, one is silent and still. So we talked about that. We are silent and still, and this silence and stillness does not come from the self. We don't. It is intrinsic to the Buddha nature. It is not something that we, how would you say, using cogitation or imaginings, come to this quiet, still moment, which a lot of people do. They don't know, they're ignorant. So they pretend to be quiet and still. And they can be there on their cushion pretending to be quiet and still. And all it does is just create this volcanic eruption later on because they're suppressing thought. Huineng didn't say of suppressing thought. In fact, he said that he has thoughts all day long. But his thoughts were Wunyan, no thoughts. This is different. This is not something that we can clearly understand so easily. No thought. But it is in this way. No thought is just the natural functioning of the mind, skipping through that filter of the ego and consciousness. It sees things just as they are. This is what's silent and still. The mind is still. Of course, it's going to be still, because if anything happens, if it happens in mind, could it be said to be moving anywhere, appearing anywhere? There's so many different examples of this in the sutras. The dwelling place of Manjusri. Where is the dwelling place of Manjusri? It's in mind. We see things in this way. We understand that is that way. Baizong's ducks and Matsu, where Matsu asked Baizong at the lake, where are the ducks going to, seeing them flying by over the lake? And Baizong said, they're going, and then Matsu twisted his nose. It's the same thing. Silent and still. He wasn't asking him a samsaric question. He was asking him a question that was pointing to the reality of the mind itself. In fact, where could those ducks go? Where are they going to go? They fly out of mind? They could not fly out of mind. There's not a place where all of a sudden you travel so far and then it stops and says, this is out of bounds. There's nothing more here. You can't go further. Mind is infinite. So everything is within mind. We, as sentient beings, cannot understand this. We can understand it in a samsaric way, in samsaric logic and reason, but we can't prove it in the way that we want to prove it. But on the other hand, we can't prove the reality of this dream. This is a dream. And that's what Nagarjuna was doing with his practice, was he was essentially presenting an argument, which in those days was an argument that was used to challenge an opponent's argument by undermining the validity of their claims. For instance, everything is real. And he could challenge it. But then they would say, we call a foul on you because although you're doing this, you're not presenting an alternative to what my premise is, that everything is real. How could he? How could he? And this has baffled scholars for so long, baffled people all over the place, and scholars from way back then to now, where they're looking at it and saying, oh, that doesn't make sense because you can't prove it. But the thing is that the only way that can be done is via a realization, to clearly establish that, some kind of a realization outside of samsara. But to try to put it in the context of samsaric words and phrases, it cannot work. The moment that you open your mouth, you lose. This was very evident in the Vilamakritti Sutra. And when Manjusri was asked about emptiness, and he said, it cannot be spoken of. And Vilamakritti was asked the same question, and he was silent. It is that clear and precise. And Nagarjuna's arguments from the Madhyamaka school was that clear and precise. He could not move a chess piece without losing. We continue. So we said, all involvements, one is still and silent, yet luminous wisdom by nature is incisively penetrating. So these are great words, right? But what does it mean? And if we just read it, we don't get it. We have to take the time to slow down. So he says, yet luminous wisdom. So this luminous wisdom is coming from the true nature. This is the intrinsic nature of the mind, and actually even transcends beyond Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi. That's the door to enter into this luminous wisdom of the mind, which we can't even call wisdom at that point. They call it wisdom here so they don't lose you in the process. Luminous wisdom by nature. So what nature are we talking about? The self nature of mind, or true nature. Not your nature, not your personality, your ego, but mind. Is incisively penetrating. So this wisdom penetrates everything incisively. The term incisively is to be without a doubt, is to be clear, to cut through everything incisively. It removes all of the doubts. Sounds like a sutra, right? The diamond cutter. And it removes all the doubts. It's incisive. And it's penetrating. It goes all the way through. It is what I used in the retreat as an example of the sword capable of piercing the sky. Once you have an image of a sword piercing the sky, what is there? There's no imagining that you could imagine what that is. But it's as if you're in a play and all of a sudden somebody comes and they take a sword and they cut the background and it's gone, or it's ripped. What's behind it? Whatever's behind it is beyond the projections in that moment. In terms of that theater, it's beyond that. Inconceivable, non-conceptual. It is in this way, where whatever appears on the set, the theater set, is phenomena. Whatever it's projected on is the noumenon. And for those who are mathematically inclined, numerator and denominator, where mind is the denominator. Actually, they call it mind king sometimes, or we could say mind royalty to make it gender proper. And appearances all belong to mind. When we see things in this way, this is called right view. We understand that all of the things that we see are appearances. We don't know that because we knock on a table and we say, oh, this table is real. It is clear. We hear the sound. I cannot put my hand through the table, and therefore it must be real. But then when I ask people, how many times you've had a dream where you swore it was real and you told your friends, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It was like so real. What makes you think that this is not just another dream? We don't even know how long this dream is lasting. Have you had dreams right before or simultaneous to your alarm going off and it looks like a long, long dream? And then you wake up. But you don't know how long you were dreaming, do you? It was a very interesting thing. As a kid, I was so fascinated with the Twilight Zone. And Rod Serling, I know people, oh no, Gilbert's going to be talking about the Twilight Zone now. But it's okay. It was very interesting. It was like Incident at Oxbow Ridge or something like that. And they were going to hang this man. And he was there. I think he was a deserter, and they're going to string him up over the bridge. And he was there on the bridge, and they're about ready to push him over the side. And then he fell down, and the rope broke, and he landed in the river, swam away, and was going all over the place. And it took him a long time, but finally they caught him. And then in that moment, he realized that was all a dream, and he was still back on the edge of the bridge, and they're about ready to push him over. So all of that happened there in that, I think it was a half an hour program. So what seemed to be a half an hour was just a dream in his mind in that moment, and then they pushed him over. Sorry for the sad ending, but that's the outcome of samsara. But my point is that how long do dreams last? And when we see things, we have to take a look at it from a different viewpoint. This viewpoint is not really a viewpoint. It is right view, which is not a view, because if it was a view, it would be dualistic, that which is real looking at which is unreal. But we cannot say it's either real or unreal. Again, Nagarjuna talked about apparent reality and absolute reality. And the reason that he did that was to prevent people from saying, this is unreal, therefore there's a flaw in your analysis, because then that's dual. But the only way to maintain that non-duality is to say this apparent reality appears in absolute reality. They're not separate. The apparent reality, the substance of this apparent reality, the substance of all your room, all you touch your face, whatever, is mind. It's not made up of anything but mind. We could say, oh no, that scientists say that it's solid or whatever. We can go to Michael and ask him, do all scientists think this way? And the thing is that when we see things, then we understand that all of this belongs. This is the very first thing that the Buddha taught, which is the law of dependent origination. Everything is connected with everything else. Causes and conditions never fail. Pratika Samappada. And so Chan not only presents Pratika Samappada, the causes and conditions never fail, but we practice it. We are in harmony with it. And that's very, very important that we have it in this way where we're in this incredible harmony with that. When I say we, it's not the we of the corporal body, but the singular we of the Buddha mind, which takes it out of this idea of a life and being. The big problem that we have is that we want to get enlightened. We want to have this separate experience. There's no separate experience. There is no wisdom nor any attainment. That's what it says in the Heart Sutra. So why do we go around, scurrying around, sitting on a cushion, thinking that if we cross our legs, we're going to become enlightened? It doesn't work that way. Crossing our legs isn't bad. It stops the baby from crying. And if we apply right view to the meditation, there can be this penetration through to mind. But simply the act of crossing the legs will not get us there. I don't care how long you're sitting, you can be there and you'll become enlightened, or you'll confess to whatever crimes, imagine that happened just simply to stop from crossing your legs. Sorry, but what I'm trying to do is say, when you sit with right view. When you sit with right view, then there's a benefit, a great benefit in terms of sitting, because you're isolating the mind to enable it to have a controlled environment to be able to practice and simply allow mind to rest. Silent illumination, that's why they say it, is just sitting. Tibetans say resting in Rigpa, resting in the clear awareness of the mind. That's it. There's awareness there. The consciousness then is where the ego seems to seep in, and that messes everything up. When we have the ego coming in, then it's there. And it's funny because there was a few retreatants that were doing very good, and some of them were there, but it was like their ego was next to them going, we're doing really good now. You've been sitting very well. You haven't had a thought for a long time. And they're practicing that way. But then when you call them on it, then they go back to the cushion and they make great progress, because there was a well-known advisor to spot that ego that comes up, that's clever, but is afraid. It's afraid of being lost. We counter that ego with the Dharma. Everywhere you read, you'll see right view, hidden in plain sight. Now we go back to the words. Dark and incognizant. So it's dark. You go, where's mine? I can't see it. And incognizant. That was the very first thing that Bodhidharma talked to Hueca, and Hueca said his mind was unstable. And when he did that, then he said, well, show me your mind, or bring me your mind. And so when Hueca couldn't bring his mind to him, because it's incognizant, the self cannot see it. Then Bodhidharma said, well, your mind is quieted, because in that moment, that was it. That's Chan, dark and incognizant. That's the ekayana, single mind. That's what we do. You see how rich these little lines are here. They're just absolutely amazing. And then we look at the Song of Mind from Nui To. And there's a line in the Song of Mind that says, illuminating yet obscured, illuminating yet obscured. So it means it illuminates everything, but you try to point to where mind is, or where Manjushri's mind is, where he dwells. You can't find it. It's obscure. It's incognizant. You cannot point to any place and say, this is where mind is. Mind's everywhere. And so it's interesting because then it says, if one-mindedness, ekayana, is impeded, all dharmas are misunderstood. So all phenomena is misunderstood. And it is in that way. If we do not see things with an illuminated mind, we misunderstand all appearances. They belong to me. It's my ego, my this, my that, whatever it is in this way. And it's very easy to do that, very easy to get frustrated, very easy. I cannot say, I'm free from that, liberated completely. I would be a fool to say that, but I know I'm a practitioner, and I try very hard to separate from that. And the more that I separate out from clinging to these points, the clearer the mind gets, the clearer and easier the choices are in the present moment as to body, speech, and mind. Go back. So dark and incognizant, it still shines. So when we say dark and incognizant, it means we cannot recognize it, but it still illuminates. Actually, it's what it says. It still shines and illumines. So it means that when we are practicing in the right way, this present moment is illuminated. Now, the present moment of the Buddha present moment is different from the samsaric present moment. It's different. We don't understand that, nor can we ever understand that. It must be experienced, but you can experience it. It's right there. It's so funny because I think there was a book, I think it was a Theravada book, Liberation at the Palm of Your Hand. It's just there. It's just there right in this present moment. This present moment is the Buddha present moment that illuminates everything. In this moment, it contains the past and the future, all potentialities of what could be the future, what could be the past. It's all contained. You go, what are you talking about? The past is past. Is it really? Can it be changed? From this side, we can't do that. We can't unwind and say, oh, I'd like to take that term that I used to call my boss a jerk back. You can't do that here, but you still can make amends in some ways, but you can't reverse it in that way. But nevertheless, we have to see all of this belongs to mind. We can understand that. Now, we continue on. While conforming to primal and true emptiness. So while conforming to primal and true emptiness, that means staying in the present moment using Buddha perception. Okay. Why is that? That's primal and true emptiness. So we see everything in every moment as an illusion, a phantasm, a dream. It's transitory. We are operating in a dream. We understand we're operating in a dream, but we have a function in that dream. The function is to deliver sentient beings. And so we understand that those sentient beings are illusory, but they still are a bother. It's like if the Dharmakaya was represented by my body, and then please don't anybody say Gilbert said that he has the Buddha body. I'm just using this as an example. And if we had an itch or an injury to our hand, wouldn't this hand want to take care of that? It's natural that we want to alleviate that kind of a discomfort or disease in the body. So that's what we do. But we use this right view and right view perception of the Buddha perception to be able to see in any given moment what we should do. And again, that's why he said it's true emptiness. So here he's saying this is not nihilistic. If it was nihilistic, we could care less about if somebody's suffering too bad for them. We could care less. But there's times when I really understand why Kuan Yin Bodhisattva is represented with many arms or represented with 4 heads or more heads. Because there's times you really wish you had more capacity to transmit the Dharma to other people. It is something that I feel deficient in terms of doing this. I try my best, but it's something that this compassion is so great, and it just wants to burst and shine and help everyone. I haven't figured that out completely yet, but it is this karuna, this interest in the suffering of others. We continue. So it said, while conforming to primal and true emptiness, one, and it's referring to one, and I think here we could say that ourselves, but I think more like the mind, all the while perceives, all the while, meaning all the time it's in the present moment, perceives with precise exactness. These verses of Young Chia are so incredible. He's packed so much into this. And woe to us when we read right past it and don't pick this up. Because he really wants to present this to you as best as he can in words and phrases, knowing that's deficient. But he really wants you to get that. Listen to this last bit. One, all the while perceives. What perception? Buddha perception. When Avalokiteshvara was coursing through the deep prajna paramita, he perceived that all 5 skandha are empty. One of the skandha is perception. So it's a different perception. This is the true perception of the intrinsic mind. It's not really a perception per se or a right view per se, because it transcends the idea of duality. It's like, I know my body. If there's an itch on my body, I know exactly where it's at. We cannot say I'm perceiving something outside of my body, right? It's just this way. It is true perception, Buddha perception. The Buddha mind is capable of doing that because it created everything. That's the shortcut to know all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Perceive that all Dharma, Dhatu, nature, all phenomena was created by the mind. We miss that somewhere along the line, and all of a sudden we want to turn into Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and try to perfect this body rather than to conform or abide in our own true nature. Abiding in our own true nature, we have to put down the idea of the self. But what we get is liberation. It's not a bad deal, because no matter what, this self is fleeting. it's not going to be here much longer when you think about it. So why not choose the Buddha? All the while perceived with precise exactness. Precise exactness. Form is not other than emptiness. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is precisely emptiness, and emptiness is precisely form. Pratika Samapada, causes and conditions never fail. Never fail. There's not something that's an anomaly that where someone, let's say, is going to eat an ice cream every day and not gain weight, unless they have a tapeworm or something in their body. But I mean, a regular person, it never fails, causing conditions. If you smile at people, they'll smile back. If you growl at them or scowl at them, they will scowl back. They will think negative of you. When you're happy or smiling, a friend of mine says, you have to smile, smile. But I can't fake smile. But in any case, the thing is that everything is precise. That's what's important. That's why it works, because there's no little axioms or there's no little exclusions or exceptions or whatever to it. It is precisely in this way. Yung Chia hit it right on the head in these beautiful, beautiful lines. When we read the sutras or the ancient masters, we deserve to give them a listen. We deserve to see what they have to say. Slow it down. Don't go to the next line till you understand the line before or the next word. All of this is filled with Buddha Dharma and references. This particular lines are filled with references of different doctrines of Buddha doctrine. It's absolutely amazing. When we slow it down, the Buddha's in the present moment. Don't be in a big rush. You'll be in a big rush, and then you find out that you're through with this life. Make every one of these breaths count that you have. Don't waste them. Really study sincerely. Thank you very much. So I think I picked the right topic to talk about today. We can open it up for questions. Wei Sheng, good to see you.
When you describe this form of the word,
We got a bit. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear? Sorry.
A little bit of audio problem. Maybe move the mic closer.
When you talk about there's one line that says I only remember that word dark stuck with me, and you said that is the quality of the mind. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. You didn't say that word. Is the dark in here equivalent to silent illumination's silent part?
Yes, you could say that. I read somebody else who had said that in somewhere else the dark was like an ignorance or something, but I think they blew it. I don't think that they got it right when he was talking about dark and incognizant, because that's why I referred to Song of Mind for clarification on that. to show, okay, that this is dark, but we cannot see that. I think, what did they say? Uh, Illuminating yet obscured, so we cannot see it. And that's why they're talking about incognizant. Also, it was just that we cannot see it, but we cannot even think about it. We cannot formulate anything about mind. It's because it is the unconditioned. The condition would be something that we could talk about, but the unconditioned, we truly cannot talk about. It has to be experienced. So yeah, that you're good in terms of looking at that and trying to pick that out, because that's very, very important to kind of jump over that hurdle. And that's precisely why I put that part in from the Song of Mind, so you wouldn't be confused about that being something contradictory.
Yes, it's just because it's normally dark. It has a negative tone to it, but it's describing the mind, so that makes me think, okay, is it similar or actually equivalent to the silent illumination, the silence part? That's dark, and the luminous is, of course, naturally the illumination part. That's describing the mind. But okay.
Yeah, the noumenon does not have a form to it, so we cannot see it. So if the mind is at rest, what would it see?
Nothing.
Yeah. And then when it's functioning, it clearly illuminates everything. So when it's at rest, it sees everything and nothing at the same time. But if it saw itself, it would interfere with the present moment clarity, because it would be something in creating a duality. So it's interesting. Please kind of play with that that one line, because it's important to take a look at that. I mean, you're hitting at the thing, and it's kind of like going, and that's kind of where I stopped and looked at it and go, okay, let me get command over this, and it will help you. It'll help you kind of like get an idea, not by the cogitation of it, because that's incognizant, but by stopping the mind and then seeing it, and that's this this motion and stillness, or what Hui Ning talked about, Wu Yin, where we're constantly in this state. If we're in this, I shouldn't even say a state. If the Buddha perception is there, then everything is seen very clearly and illuminated. Okay. And we're clear about it. We're clear that there's appearances, but those appearances belong to us. If I looked at my hand, I go, wow, where did that come from? When did I grow that? That would be ridiculous, right? I go, I could have drawn a better hand than this. Maybe I have a claw or something. No, I look at it and say, that's part of my body, the Dharmakaya. It's clear. So it's interesting. Just kind of play with those kinds of things. And I think that they'll help you a lot in terms of that. This is an important kind of a place for you to stop and go, okay, let me figure this out. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Sam, what you got?
Hey, Gilbert. First, I just wanted to ask, how was your retreat that you hosted?
It was good. It was good. The people there, they had a very good results with it. Quite a few of them were my students, so they performed well, and the new ones were, I guess it's safe to say, were kind of blown away, but they did very well as well too. There was one person that was there that had been practicing for 12 years and was so surprised that this was the first time that he heard right you. And he just really took it and ran with it. So yeah, it was good. Thank you.
I'm glad. It's really good to hear. I in reference to earlier when you were talking about the story where Matsu twisted Bai Zhang's nose when talking about the ducks, you, I had been contemplating something very deeply, and it was, it's right here. I'm so sorry. It's the, from Master Panshan Baoji. He asks his disciples, in the three worlds, there is no Dharma. Where could you find the mind? And the way you described the ducks and then the nose twisting, I realized it's like an inverse question almost, or without just trying to conceptualize it too much, what you said helped me see more clearly where you would find the mind in this sense. But my actual question I wanted to ask you was, that same master was known for, he was awakened when he went to a butcher shop as a lay person, and he told the butcher, "Give me some good meat," and the butcher said, "It is all good meat." And at those words, Master Baoji was awakened. And I was wondering if you could share some words on that, please, Gilbert. Thank you.
I think what he's espousing is the equanimity of all appearances. It's neither sacred nor profane, as in the Chan poems they talk about, and in the sutras as well. It's all good. It's all a result of mind, and if we see through it, then we understand that is in this way. It is our discrimination that tells us this is a bad cut of meat and a good cut of meat, you know. So been a while since I'm a meat eater, but you know, if you said, oh, you know, here is a filet mignon, you know, and here's a wiener, you'd go, well, I want the filet mignon, you know, and the wiener doesn't look so good, but the wiener may look good against beef hearts or something, you know, brains or whatever. And so that's all discriminatory. But when we let go of that discrimination, then we get actually to a higher jhana, going to the Theravada, to the state of equanimity. And that is their highest jhana, where there's a non-discriminating mind. That's what happened to him.
Thank you so much, Gilbert.
Yeah. Anyone else? Wendy. There you are.
I have a question. So it's all perception. Even perception is not real. So I had some food. First, I thought it's not good, but then when I was really, really hungry and I come back and I had nothing else, so I ate it. But it's delicious. So it's really the same thing, but just a few hours later, it tastes so much better.
We have a saying in Spanish, you know, that my dad used to always tell me, because I'd go like, no, I don't want to eat beans again. You know, we eat beans all the time. I imagine maybe Chinese children might say the same thing about rice, but maybe not. But we said, no, I want being Americanized, you know, I didn't want to eat beans every day. But my dad would say, cuando hay hambre, no hay mal pan. When you're hungry, there is no such thing as bad bread. Mm. And so with you, because you're hungry, you know, your discrimination changed, where before you went, but no, it's there. It's like what you do to rationalize when you're down to your last can in the cupboard. It's pretty good stuff. So it's all conditional when you see things. So that's a way that you can look and say, don't have this kind of a discriminating mind. And because a discriminating mind will cause you suffering, you know, but stale old bread will keep you alive.
Okay, thank you.
So remember that. So when you're down there, and you just say that if you're hungry, there's no such thing as bad bread or bad rice. Okay. Except I remember Shifu was at a retreat once, and you know how they kind of then they weren't as artful as they are now, where they mix all of the ingredients into a potpourri dish, mystery dish, where that was all of the stuff that was from another one, like 5 different dishes that weren't completed. And everybody saw that dish was like been showing up the whole week. So he got angry with everybody and said, "You're not eating this dish. Why are you not eating this dish? You're discriminating. You shouldn't be discriminating about the food, And so he said, "I'll eat it." And he did. He got sick. But at least he made the point, and he ate our karma for us. So, that's what I tell my kids all the time when they're growing up, and they go, "I can't eat this." And I go, "Okay, give it to me. I'll eat your karma for you." No. And no, so that we don't throw away the food. No. But yeah, it's a different way of looking at things, different way to practice. Any other questions? You guys are letting me off easy tonight. Yes, Robert.
Amito Gilbert, thank you very much. Thank you. So trying to connect from several weeks ago, you will talk about sitting in the right view. I mean, today you talk about sitting in right view. A few weeks ago, you talk about rest in Rigpa. And I look up what Rigpa is in the dictionary. It says awareness. And
clear awareness.
Then just now you mentioned about the awareness of the primordial nature of mind. And I look at all these so-called intellectual understanding. While we are sitting, or while I'm sitting, or while this body is in a sitting session, I try to be quiet and stay in the awareness. But I found out that, not that I found out, it's like the more I don't look for it, because the more I look for the awareness of what, it seems to be drilling in a rabbit hole. But the more I just aware, but not looking for anything, not seeking of getting somewhere, just be quiet and just be there. And then just now you end the session with, when we slow it down, Buddha is in the present. That seems to answer what is puzzling all this time. It's like, it's unspeakable. It's like when you don't look for it, it's almost like you cannot slice time. Buddha time has no time.
That's right.
And it's just every single moment. You can't even use quantum micro pita slice. It's like it's not in that equation.
Yeah.
It's like I guess I'm just testing my understanding. It's like the mind tends to drag you to, I want to get this, I want to get that. But that is a big old dream, a big old trap. It's trying to fool the real mind. Trying to blow all the dust, blow all the smoke in the mirror, in the image. But it seems to be really simple. You just almost like sailing in the sea. You just sail. You don't have a direction, but you every moment make sure you don't hit the iceberg. Every moment make sure you watch out for the wave. Every moment just be aware of what you need to do at the moment. And that's when you say we function in this world to help, to deliver others. Is this understanding kind of in the ballpark?
Yeah, this is a bodhisattva coursing through the deep prajna paramita. You're using this vessel that's called Robert Coe, the floatable meatball floating in the ocean of samadhi, and every moment you're aware of what you're doing, and that's important. No, so there's an awareness there, and there's a function, and that's your lodestone or direction that you go. And the lodestone is to do what you can do to deliver sentient beings in as best as you can, and to bring them to the Dharma, bring them, and realizing that there's a liberation there. Even if you've gotten a little bit, I think you've gotten more than a little bit at this point in time, and there's a freedom there. And so this is what we do. We don't think this time or whatever time, it is in this way. The present moment of the Buddha is not measured linearly, where there's this little line there that's the present moment, because as you begin to slice it and slice it and slice it, you can't fall on this side or fall on that side. Just in this moment, try to think of what the present moment is, in your heads. Try to think, where is it? And the more that you do that, the sharper the present moment becomes. It's so clear in that way, until finally the past, present, and future merge simply into mind. But this is your entry to go in, is to see this balancing on this point of a pin, and then letting it all go. So yeah, just keep working that. These are the things that you should be doing. These are turning phrases that get to you, and they're your keys to going deeper and deeper. Because you're a sincere practitioner, you don't even know how far you've gotten. All you have to do is just talk to somebody that doesn't do right view, and they're going to go like, what are you talking about? So you have to become more adept at presenting right view to others that don't know this. Any other questions? I want to read something to you, and it was a response to something that I wrote to this person. Listen to this. See what you think. Likewise, appearances in samsara do not truly appear on their own accord, and do not truly appear in samsara. Samsara and all appearances are temporary visions or phantoms appearing in mind itself. If all of samsara belongs to mind and owes its existence to mind, then mind can be realized as the true nature of all appearances due to its own self-nature. Thus, pratika samapada is mind, how the nature of mind enables appearances to appear temporarily. Thus, all appearances are the substance of mind alone, no duality, and thus no consciousness, and thus no life, being, personality, or ego. The confusion in this world lies in the appearances forming in a manner that appear to create the illusion of a self or an ego. And then she adds, this has been the area I keep contemplating. This is good. This is a maturation of her practice. And I'm so happy to share that with you, and to show this true and proper understanding that the ancient masters were always asking about, saying that in order for someone to practice well, you have to have a true and understanding of this mind. And that's all I ask you to do, like Master Ling Chi talked about in his exhortations, is just to have a true and proper understanding of mind. And her reflections of this is absolutely amazing. And this person is Ling Yun, one of my oldest students. And she's going to be, I don't know what they call it, enrobed or whatever they call it, become a monastic, I think on September 16th or so. So they're getting a monastic that's complete coming in. And what we talk about is the maturation of the practice. And the sutras always talk about the maturation of a person's practice. And hers is there. Occasionally I will pick on people to test them, to see, what the ancients used to say, to stick a fork in to see if they're done. A lot of people are wrong. Some people are doing pretty good, but I kind of, that's my job to do that. And my job to say, not yet. With her, not yet is not yet, but pretty darn close in terms of her heart, because this was written from the heart. It wasn't copied. It wasn't something that a person just was just plagiarizing what I said. It was something that I had written to her, and she immediately turned it around in a very natural way. But you all have that capability. You all have the ability to penetrate the dharmas in this way, and just follow this path. No, it won't lead you astray. You're going to do very, very well. The very fact that you're here and you're listening literally from all over the world. No, please spread this. No, I only have, one head and two arms, and you need to be the arms of Kuan Yin Bodhisattva and the sword of Manjusri to cut through illusions for people until they're able to do it on their own. So please practice well and take what I mentioned today to heart. I was going to give a totally different lecture today. It wasn't really different. It was kind of incorporated what I was saying, but I didn't want to read it. I wanted you to have it naturally. You can send to them, if you guys want to download this, what I was going to say, and you'll find bits and parts of it in there. And it's well worth your while to read it. It's kind of like a little bit of a primer on what I was talking about. And so hang on, and so that she can, I guess you can download it right from there. So you can get what I had was originally going to talk about. And you'll find a lot of what I talked about was in that. It's just that I felt like I needed to have it come out in this way at this point. So, okay. Was there any other questions? No, I'm surprised you guys are. Oh, Michael, go ahead.
Well, let me ask a totally different question. So next week, I'm going to a conference for social scientists, and they all come together to in this session to worry about the Anthropocene and like how humans changed and are messing up the world. And so they invited me to give a talk, like my Buddhist perspective about all of this. And so I wonder what type of advice I can give them, because being your student, I will of course mention right view, but for some in the audience, these two problems will seem very far apart. Like having right view about what drives this world and the patterns in it and the role mind plays, and then the appearances of obviously outside the planet has trouble, people have trouble. So what would be a skillful way to address this, which may give them some bit of insight? Yeah.
Again, what is your audience made out
It's
of?
mostly social scientists and scholars, political scientists, international relations. So they worry about peaceful world and so.
Then I would emphasize from our school that we are this kind of a what do they call it? Words escaping me now. The social responsibility that we have environmental, and the environment includes not just the environment of our planet, but the environment of the mental and emotional environment, of caring for others, and that this idea that we all share the same mind and same heart, and do it this way so that you can collectively bring them in. So how are people going to challenge you, and say, well, no, I think I'm separate, and say you use this mind, and so that's essentially the noumenon, and that we see it as something that we can change the world by little by helping each other out, by not discriminating, not creating greed, hatred, or ignorance in terms of things. And it's ignorant for us to be killing each other, or polluting the planet, or to doing whatever we're doing, or challenging each other for borders. No. And just bring it to reality in terms of that. So you don't have to talk about cosmically all the stuff and saying all of you are not real, your illusions, you're going to lose the audience that way. But you find, anytime when you speak to a group like that, you find the common ground, and you find the things that are things that they can associate with, and then that will help. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Best of luck with that one. Yes, Santa.
Well, we just wanted to add to Michael that building a pure land on earth and then protecting a spiritual environment, and you could take the tack of not just environmental ecology, but spiritual ecology, which encompasses environmental ecology. And the same principles of ecology that's dependent origination, that no one organism is truly separate from any other organism. The part to the whole and the whole to the part relationship. That in ecology, that's very similar to how we talk about dependent origination as well as the non-self. So it's so relevant. The ecology view of the world is so similar to the way we look at life, right?
Yeah, that'll work. You got two views, the same view really, but yeah, just find the common ground. That's very, very important, and find the material common ground, the really good part, that will resonate, that you want them to hear, to, even if you're not going to convert them to anything, but at least they're going to, you're representing Buddhism, and so that the people won't be ignorant about it, but you're also representing the best of the world in terms of what our responsibilities are going forward. Okay, Pavel.
Sorry, unmuted. Thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit on the discussion started by Michael and follow that on Santa, because Michael may be familiar with the idea of ecological rationality, where the idea that rational action is not actually an individual property could be something that your audience could also relate to and understand. And that work is recognized, and it doesn't seem to be so far to what Senta was discussing and what you might be aiming to. So that might be sort of like a way in that just occurred to me.
Yeah, thank you. So you mean, can I follow up? You mean to point out that there's something flawed about the attempt to solve problems just rationally? You mean this? Which is, of course, prevalent in social science?
I think it goes a little a step further, where the question of where does rationality where does it reside is something that is being questioned by the idea of ecological rationality. And so it doesn't reside in your head, it resides in relationships, it resides in the configurations of elements. And some of those elements you might call individuals, but not just those, of course. I hope that helps a little bit. We can talk some more outside of here if you're interested.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the night? Okay, then we're done, and I'll go and eat some of my chili beans that I made today. I don't know why I made chili beans. It's like 102 degrees here, but in any case, that's I have food at least this time. Glad to see you all. You know, I'll be back on this channel again next week, and we'll pick it up from there. And
Gilbert, next week is Labor Day weekend. Next Monday is Labor Day.
Let me get a poll. You know, please open your channels up if you can, and just let me see who is interested. I can give a class. I don't have a problem, but do you have a problem?
I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be traveling.
Okay. And how about you, Michael?
I'll be traveling for 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
Wow. So are you guys want to take a break next week, or you want a class? Wow, don't be so enthusiastic. Yeah. We can have Michael, are you going to be around then?
I will be gone for 6 weeks. I will be in Europe
next week.
Yeah, I will leave on Saturday. Yeah.
All right. Well, by the process of elimination, we lost our moderator, so we'll pick it up in two weeks, right, Senta?
Yes, yes.
You take too many vacations.
Oh my goodness.
I got a question. While I'm in Hong Kong and Shanghai, is there a way to join by dialing in? Do they allow me to do that over Hong Kong and Shanghai? Do you know that?
I'll look into that and share with you, Robert.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, safe travels, Robert. So, okay, that'll be it. So hopefully, you know, you all benefited from the class. And if you have, please, you know, our job is to just bring more people to this precious Dharma. It's not about me becoming popular or whatever. The reason I read what Ling Yun wrote was to show you that my goal is to produce people that can present the Dharma in that way, and to show how that this works. And that's my goal. If she exceeds me, or any of my other students exceed me, I will be so happy. Has nothing to do with me in terms of a presenter. It has to do with preserving this precious Dharma for years to come. Okay.